5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, John, welcome to Breakdown.
All right, good to be here.
For the second time, for folks that will never know or ever see, we had about a 15-minute conversation, and I forgot to hit record. So we're back.
That was the best part. Absolutely the best part.
We dove into AI early. I want to kickstart that. At least now we've sort of broken the ice about that topic. But for folks that don't know, your website, Elodin Design, ELOD.IN, Elodin Design. I'm going to read the hero text here. I build clean, performant websites for businesses, nonprofits, and agencies. You're doing a lot of stuff. You're covering a lot of ground. You got your own clients. You work with agencies. The first question I asked you before was, how's business these days? Sum it up for us. How you doing now that we've ticked the first month and a half through 2026?
Business is pretty normal right now for me, but I have seen kind of a change in what sort of business I'm getting. I guess there are really two things. The first is that I've seen agency work that's coming in really slow down over the last 3 months or so. I've heard that from several different agency owners. Another thing that I have seen, and I should have mentioned this before actually, but the sites that I'm getting tend to be either simpler or more complex than what I used to get. I don't get as many anymore of the business sites. They're somewhere between 7 and 20 pages. I'm not getting much of that. I'm getting one pagers, and I'm getting requests for like full on applications where, and people come to someone like me for some of those applications, because if they go to a full on like app dev shop, some of those ideas are going to take, 50 grand to get off the ground. But WordPress can be used for an awful lot of things. It has like the authentication layer, and just all of that kind of stuff is baked into it, where a lot of times you can build something that's a wireframe that may not be the optimal way to do it at scale, but can get you there at a fraction of the price where all of the functionality is actually in place. So I guess that's kind of where I am right now. But we have seen a slowdown of agency work for sure. And even on personal work, I saw a slowdown for probably just about a month last year.
In our conversation that will never leave the cutting room floor because it wasn't recorded, I asked, do you think AI is responsible for this slowdown? You brought up a good perspective that I hadn't thought of before. And you kind of hinted at, well, I don't think it's AI like doing the work and people don't need it anymore, but it could be impacting search and getting, to the agencies that typically partner with you, or maybe customers that knock on your door.
I actually don't mean search in that respect. I mean search in terms of it is less valuable today, I think, to put up a website than it was a year ago. Because
I see.
A significant percentage of traffic is getting routed to Google, where it never leaves Google. It never comes to your site. And so I think that I don't know if clients know that. I don't know if they care either, but you might think that if we're launching a lead generation site, I don't know that we're getting 100% of those leads anymore, at least not through the site directly. Now, that's not to say the site's not valuable or that it can't drive, AI-driven search results, but I'm just not totally sure that all of the value is still there, at least not in the same way.
Yeah, this is a good perspective. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning. He started a new marketing campaign for a construction company. Mm-hmm. Not a huge construction company, but a husband and wife own it, and they have maybe 50 to 60 employees that work for them. So not just like one guy with a truck too. Like this is what would be a serious business, probably a few $1 million a year at minimum, and they don't even know how to use the website, like let alone AI or landing page. I mean, of course, this is why they're hiring him to do some of the marketing stuff. But that's interesting that my initial thought on search was, it's taking away like the Google SEO traffic and it's not landing on the customer anymore. How do you think about this? How do you think about where does AI going to get that data? What questions do you think it's answering for the end user who's leveraging it for that search? If they never hit the landing page, how is it solving the particular pain point for them?
Well, I think this is where I'm not totally sure what where it is going, because I think that in a way it makes it harder to show numbers to clients, but I don't know if it actually affects the leads. Just by way of example, on a client site, you might set up pages that have really specific keywords for all kinds of adjacent topics around their services that may not be the service they provide, but it could be like a how-to post. Say that we're doing like a furniture refinishing company or something like that. You might have how-to posts about refinishing furniture, because they will drive, those can drive ultimately that link juice kind of flowing through your site. But I don't know that those sorts of things make it to your site anymore. Now, from a perspective of crawling, maybe you still do get the value, but you don't get the person who's on your site or who's not on your site that would have been had that not been true. Where, if you ask how to refinish furniture, probably Google's just going to answer it for you. And I would imagine that those clicks are the ones that are most disappearing. I don't think it's, stop sync from running in the middle of the night or whatever, those kind of searches where it's something that clearly has purchase intent. I don't know that traffic is going away, but I think that some of the other stuff is, and I just don't know what impact that has on the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. And that's like the stuff that these AI companies are not talking about. And it's the citation to where it got that training data from. So like if you said, how do I refinish this furniture, and especially if it's a particular piece of furniture or a particular method, I don't know anything about that stuff, but if there's like a particular method and you're the expert on that, but AI isn't bubbling up your link where it learned that from, that sucks.
Well, I think
right?
that AI also has a huge preference for large businesses. I think that Google doesn't necessarily have that, in that Google surfaces lots of businesses, even if the large ones are first. Like their local search results for a lot of small businesses are going to be still driving a lot of traffic, and it surfaces a lot of those. AI doesn't really do that. It's not going to give you a list of businesses in your area that do what you do. If it answers your question, if it uses any business name at all, it's going to be a giant company.
Yeah. In our previous conversation, you said something like, hey, I've built some test sites, I've built some landing pages with AI, but I don't know if I would trust it going live. That's music to my ears, because I have this running theory that I talk about often about the value of WordPress. And one of the values of WordPress, and this does tie back to Gravity Forms for sure, is a lot of people trust that 100 out of 100 times you install WordPress, a blank install of WordPress, it starts the same. You know exactly how to run it. You know exactly how to customize it. You might have to do a bunch of stuff to it. You might have to do just a few things to it. It doesn't matter. The foundation is the same every time you stamp it onto another server. And that's a huge trust thing, right? It's a huge thing to leverage in a business, because you're not hiring people to work for you or partner with you and say, yeah, go build it with AI. And every time you work with a freelancer or a customer or an agency, the code base that you're working with is different. Curious your thoughts. WordPress 7.0, I'll just buffer it with this. WordPress 7.0 is possibly shipping with the plumbing for AI to be built in, so plugins can do stuff with it. Your thoughts on that trust factor of like, we need the same code base over and over again, but maybe you have a different opinion.
Well, I think that that's something that people like you and me recognize. I don't think that that's something that's true for clients. I don't think that the typical WordPress experience for the average business owner is that you log in and you see what you expect to see. Because I think that WordPress is littered with like the notifications and all of that kind of cruft that comes up over time, where if I log into a client site that I haven't logged into for 6 months, even if I'm keeping everything up to date, which we do on our sites, I don't always see what I expect to see on those sites. And I think that that experience is multiplied 100-fold for clients where they don't really have a clear expectation from the get-go. So I don't think that that's a thing that the average business owner is going to care about at all. Now, from my perspective, I don't trust like vibe-coded AI apps. I don't trust vibe coding in my own professional work. That doesn't work. Now, we can do that for like small pieces of something that don't touch the database, small pieces of things where we have constrained functionality or we're asking constrained questions. Hey, I need a function that's going to do this particular regex or whatever it is. Like AI is great at that. And, depending on what you're doing, there's no security concerns anyway. But if the question is, hey, build me a website, then I have no idea what I think would be going on behind the scenes. I don't think anyone else does. But yeah. I guess I do think that like the whole clients can build their own websites thing. I think that Kevin Geary has a point about this. Like, there is this big experiment that's been going on for the last decade in WordPress, and it's all these competing page builders, the Gutenberg project, all of that. And I love Gutenberg. I really like a lot of the things that it's done. But most clients don't edit their own sites. Most clients that do will ask me to come back in after them and clean up a little bit, where even if they're able to make the containers and like lay things out generally how they want it, they're not able to get it to look the way that's in their head, or the vision in their head is not good to begin with. Like, I just don't think that there are very many people out there who are building their own sites who have kind of an eye for design and the ability to do it without doing it every day, who are going to produce work that looks professionally done.
Yeah.
I do think AI can change that kind of, but you have no idea what you're getting with the AI slop. And I don't know that any of it's going to be maintainable.
This will be the last stuff about at least AI and its impact on WordPress and businesses like freelancers and agencies. But there's been a lot of doom being spoken a couple days ago, as of this recording, kind of mid-ish February. I was just like, yeah, like we've got 6 months to a year before these things are really good. You have you won't ship any kind of vibe coded thing, which I totally get, and nor would I. I would as an experiment, but I certainly wouldn't say.
Oh yeah, I will. It's not for a professional project.
Yeah.
If I'm getting money from someone to do something, we're going to get it done right. But I have my own personal projects that I am shipping with AI, and they work. And many of them just structurally don't have potential for security holes.
Yeah. Do you see what's your take on the future of? Because here's what I hear anyway, at least with the stuff that I've been reading, is agents are going to be the thing that is okay. We're going to deploy the developer agent. Right? The developer agent's going to code. It's going to develop. We're going to deploy the marketing agent. It's going to take my job, except for being a talking head on a podcast. It's going to learn how to market this product. And then we're going to have the security agent that's just constantly running and fixing these issues that a lot of people are saying are like, yeah, vibe coding is tough now to trust, but you'll just spin up an agent and it'll take care of it for you. Do you see that as the future? Do you see something different?
I don't know. I think that in a way, kind of the hype is overblown, and in a way it's not big enough, because I think that, it's not 6 months to a year. Like, I've seen a huge change in how AI works, like how good it is, in the last month and a half. Like, I think that there has been just a revolution in the last month and a half with what sort of output you're getting, particularly on the code-based side of things. Even with the current version of Codex, I think they just launched 5.3 a couple days ago. Claude with Opus compared to Sonnet, like the output is so much better. But at the same time, is it going to take everyone's jobs? I don't know that timeline happens nearly that fast. And I say that just because you and I are probably both in the top 1% of adopters. I don't think that this touches most people just yet. I don't think that most businesses are ready to fire half of their employees and I think that there are tech companies that do, but I don't think that that's the average business. But yeah, I don't know. So I said, in a way, kind of more overblown, and also like under for what it actually does.
Yeah, I would say many companies that are putting out like general stuff, whatever that is, like, and not just code and not just software, but it could be content, it could be some publication, some old school magazine, or something from, I don't know, some traditional media kind of thing. And I can definitely see those types of organizations going, yep, cut the cost, let's implement AI, and you're just getting the average whatever that comes out of it, right? And maybe those companies don't have long for the business world, and those of us who are specialists will continue to thrive and then hopefully enhance our output because of AI. My big thing is, though, we have not realized the full cost of AI yet. I think it's fun that I can do a lot with $100 a month with Claude. But I think that cost by the end of the year will probably be $2,000 because I think what they're all going to realize is, okay, we're all losing money doing this. We've sucked everybody in. Now it's time to jack up the rates and start making money with this stuff. just my working theory of
Yeah,
how this stuff might play out.
I really enjoy using AI. It feels really good to just be able to build something where, like, just for projects that I wouldn't have ever even thought to do. Like the other day I set out to, I use Pastebot for Mac. There is no equivalent on Windows at all. And Pastebot, if you don't know, lets you do sequential copy and paste, where you can copy 50 things in a row, and then you can push a hotkey to paste them back in the same order you copied them. It's tremendously useful for transferring small sets of data where it's not worth automating, but where you can, save some time doing that. Well, I built one for Windows, and it worked okay. But it copies things to the clipboard and does that. It has all the same hotkeys. That one's not even one that I care about enough to release. That one's one that I just kind of wanted to see if I could do it, or if the AI could do it with pure prompting, because it was in a language that I don't know. And that's fun. I like doing that. I like building things. And some of these things are never going to see the light of day, but some of them probably will at some point. But for a lot of those things, it needs to be maintainable, or at least not security in case I need to feel comfortable shipping it. Another one that I did was an add-on for local. I have hundreds of websites in local by WP Engine, formerly Flywheel, formerly something else. But I have hundreds of sites in there. They're categorized, and it's terrible to find them. So I've coded this little add-on that just adds a search bar at the top, and when you type in the name of your site, it finds it. And then I found out that someone else had done exactly the same thing and had a slightly better version that respected the category. So I installed theirs. But it's amazing the sort of things that you can build right now, as long as you're not trying to scale. I don't think it's worth it for anyone to build their own CRM, build their own software as a service for every service. But you can build custom software for yourself for the exact use case that you need, as long as you don't care about a lot of those other things.
Let's transition to some of the examples you gave me and your stack around Gravity Forms when you're building solutions for clients. The first one that you gave me when I first reached out is you built something that is like an event registration system with a pseudo CRM in the background that you built with WordPress and Gravity Forms. Walk us through that solution and how you've put that together.
Yeah, so for something like that, it was kind of a complex form setup where you need to be able to register multiple people for an event. Each of those people has kind of a role and different required fields for that role. So you have this really complicated repeater setup to start with. And then as you continue on through the form, you need to be able to add another repeater field for hotel rooms, where we're doing calculated prices based on the number of nights they're staying. So kind of a complex problem to solve using Gravity Forms, just because of all the repeater data and the specific need around that sort of data. My solution was originally to try to just code the entire thing, where we basically said, okay, let's not add any fields in Gravity Forms. Let's register all of our fields, put everything behind version control, and then we can have a meta field for the year, and we can just spin up a new event by just updating that meta field and nothing else. Cool idea. But it turned out that the events from year to year just aren't similar enough. So we went from there to a setup using Gravity Wiz and their repeating fields with the little lightbox functionality, because that's the only way I can find. Gravity Forms native repeater field, which they never really totally launched, it just doesn't support doing things like individual elements of the repeater being conditionally required or conditionally not allowed, or whatever it is. But when we're nesting fields, that's what it's called. They're nested repeaters or whatever. But when we're nesting fields like that, we can do all of that logic. And the only kind of downside to it is the output that you get at the end, where when you get an entry or you get all of that, it's not really a clean spreadsheet anymore, because you have this nested form within a form, and not all of it comes out automatically. And you can probably find a way to do that. But ultimately for this one, we're grabbing all of the entries as they come out after the spam checks are done and payments received and all of that. And basically taking all of that information and putting it into several different custom content types that are related together. So you have individual registrants, and then you have hotels, and then you have orders that have included ID numbers of the registrants that did, and a whole back-end UI to be able to add them independently of the form, or to be able to edit entries that have already come through. Like the only downside of a setup like this is then you have all of this cruft on Gravity Forms. It's like their entry manager that is no longer kind of your source of truth. It's a nice fallback to have as just a backup of what information actually came through. But anyway, that's kind of the way that that one went. And I feel like AI was actually very helpful in doing some of those things, asking really specific questions that are hard to Google. What's a hook that fires in Gravity Forms that happens after the form is submitted, but and also after the spam, but before this other thing happens? We were asking lots of questions like that to figure out kind of how to proceed with things, or even just, hey, as we're relating these things together, I really don't want to use ACF. I want to use custom fields for a lot of this kind of thing. And let's go ahead and generate a first iteration of what those fields you think should look like on the back end of the site. Not even at the point of saving data yet, but just field generation, all of that kind of stuff, because it's easy. Like, it's just much faster to do it that way. And as long as we're not actually saving data, like, we're not implicating any of the security type stuff.
Yeah. From the user perspective, obviously your customers probably happy with the solution, since it's probably spec'd out on some of their requirements. But are you find any limitations with having that all in WordPress? Does the customer come to you and go, hey, we need to iterate on this and make this bigger and better and faster for more people? Or is it like still a happy home inside of WordPress?
Mostly a happy home inside of WordPress. I'd say that there are some inherent limitations baked into having the two repeater fields, in that they can't really have access to each other's information, at least no way that I could find. And the other inherent limitation, and I guess it's not inherent because we could have done something different perhaps, but we had originally scoped the project to use essentially custom content types, and then Admin Columns Pro to do really simple exports to CSV, where we're just very careful to set up exactly the right columns on the back end. But those do have their own inherent limitations and just usability. Like, there are ways that WordPress works and ways that it doesn't, where if this is our overall way that we're going to go, that's kind of how it needs to work. Whereas we probably could have built a custom UI, and I guess we built this site a year ago. So AI is not in the same place now that it was then. Like, then it was autocomplete and chatbots. I don't think that there were agents out yet. Like, so we didn't have any of that like kind of custom code happening where the AI is able to just fill things in. So I don't know. We didn't build a custom UI. I might have been more inclined to go more custom with AI in the place that it is now.
Talk to me about this other example you gave me. You said you built a utility add-on for Gravity Forms for another plugin that you run called Rent Fetch. How are you using Gravity Forms, or how are you creating this utility add-on? What does it do?
This one's a really small one. The utility add-on, basically, in Rent Fetch, Rent Fetch is a plugin with a sister plugin that does syncing from various apartment rental APIs. And then it puts all of that into WordPress content types so that you can output in whatever way you want. And there are some, default layouts and all of that, but they're all very hookable. And so clients are able to make things look like what they want them to look like on their own site and have it all native and add data to things where they can't enter them in their API. So that's kind of the overall scope. What we do on that plugin is a lot of them want to track lead sources through like UTM parameters or whatever. And there's not a great way to kind of glue those things together. So what we do on the site is many of the APIs have their own like lead ID or lead source ID identifiers, where when we get one of those, we save it in the session data, and then we append it to every Gravity form using kind of the standard format, so that if the client is using Gravity Forms, they can automatically get that lead source data if they're actually using it consistently within their advertising. But it's just one of those things. It's small, but it's a convenience. And of course, for Rent Fetch as well, we've built out other functionality to submit directly into the APIs through Gravity Forms. But I did find a limitation in Gravity Forms for that, in that it was pretty easy for the submission to fail silently, where it's accepted by Gravity Forms, no problem there. But when we send it to the API, we can't really, we don't really want to wait, because some of these APIs are kind of slow. But if it gets rejected by the API, then there's a bit of a silent failure. And so we've actually built out that integration, built it out multiple times, and ultimately built a custom forms engine as well that does kind of the same thing with the short code, where we have full control. and therefore can, stop the process if the API is not responsive and we know exactly what needs to be entered. We don't have the variability of, a client going and adding a gravity form field to something and breaking our kind of brittle code. So
yeah. There is I don't know if you've seen this before, and I know Dave and team from Gravity Wiz often listen to this podcast, but they do have something called API Alchemist, which is a new add-on from Gravity Wiz that will allow you to connect up Gravity Forms to any API and then stack on top of it.
Like an advanced version of Gravity Forms native webhooks functionality? Because the webhooks kind of does that already.
Yeah. So yes. Yes, and yes, and or.
Yeah, I've run into limitations with webhooks. Like it's great at certain types of requests, but you start passing like a bunch of nested data and JSON arrays and stuff, and it doesn't get you all the way there.
Yeah. So API Alchemist will let you like connect to various various API auth connections, and you can kind of build what data you want to send or receive with API Alchemist. They do a really good job at the UI inside of that. It might be something you want to check out.
I've not heard of that one, but I would love to make our integrations in that sort of way less brittle. And when you're doing everything by field ID, they just inherently are.
You mentioned something with RentFetch. You said that if somebody's using if the customer or the user's using Gravity Forms on their website, who's also using RentFetch, it'll store that referral data or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. From the business side, are you using RentFetch as a way to bring customers in to build websites for, like apartment rental websites?
No, not really. I work with a company called Brindle Digital that is a partner in the project. And
Gotcha.
They do build some sites for that, but it's not really a business source for me. I've built some websites on their behalf, but realistically, like, no, I'm not trying to use RentFetch to bring in leads directly, because those would filter through Brindle. They're an agency in Colorado.
Gotcha. Cool.
This is advertising specifically for apartments.
Jon Schroeder, Elodin Design, ELODIN, ELOD.IN. Sorry, Elodin Design. Check it out. He builds performant websites for businesses, nonprofits, and he's looking to work with other agencies. So if you're an agency out there and you're like, hey, man, everything sounds good, let's partner with Jon. He's got a bunch of testimonials on his site. Check it out. Jon, anywhere else you want folks to go and say thanks?
Oh, not in particular. I'm good. Yeah, it's great to talk with you.
Yeah, man, it's been great. Been great for round 2. Everybody else, it's the Breakdown Podcast. You can search for Breakdown wherever you're listening or watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe. Wherever you're listening to this in your earbuds on your podcast player, make sure you click either subscribe or follow. We'll see you in the next episode. That's it for today's episode. If you could do one more thing for me today, share this episode on social media, your favorite Facebook group or Discord channel. Spread the word about this podcast. It really helps. If you haven't added Breakdown to your favorite podcast app, point your browser to gravityforms.com/breakdown and click the icon of your app to add us and listen to us every 2 weeks. Okay, we'll see you in the next episode.